Are you supporting students who struggle with reading? Today, we are talking all about buddy books. Marty Schultz, I met him at the Milestones Conference here in Cleveland, one of the 12 conferences that I attended in 2024, and I was just blown away by buddy books. This is an amazing resource that you can utilize to help your struggling students read. We talk about buddy books. There's access to over 1 million books. And you read a line, Buddy Books reads a line. You read a line, Buddy Books reads a line. I think this has so many implications for helping students who are maybe in districts where there is a lower socioeconomic status, students who are identified as needing intervention in reading, students who are autistic students, students who have ADHD, students with, we even talked about a case study, a student with selective mutism. I think that gaining confidences in reading is so very important. So if you are supporting students who struggle with their reading, you will want to tune in and learn all about buddy books. I'm Rose Griffin, a speech therapist, board-certified behavior analyst, and founder of ABA Speech. It wasn't all that long ago that I felt overwhelmed by providing therapy for my autistic students and any students who were not yet speaking. Fast forward through many doubts, tears, research, and courses, and you will see the framework that I use today and share with over 60,000 readers weekly. One that will help you support your students and feel more confident in the process. I created the ABA Speech podcast to give you simple, step-by-step strategies to help you reach all of your students wherever they are on their communication journeys. If you're a speech therapist, BCBA, RBT student, or parent who's looking to help all students develop a way to communicate with the world, you are in the right place, friend. Let's get started. Welcome to the show. We have a great guest for you today. We have with us Marty Schultz. Thank you so much, Marty, for coming on to the show.
Thank you for inviting us.
I got to meet you in real life at the Milestones Conference this past year in Cleveland. I was on a mission last year. I did 12 in-person conferences, keynotes, paid talks, proposals, exhibits. I had a booth that time. That was when I was just chatting with everybody who else had a booth. So I'm glad we got to meet, and I really love what Buddy Books is doing. And I know the company is larger than that, but we're going to hone in on helping students who may struggle with reading, because I had not heard of Buddy Books, and I think that it's really fascinating. And we did a little bit of a talk for some of our members in the ABA Speech Connection earlier, but I wanted to make sure that we had you also on the podcast. So for people who haven't heard of Buddy Books, can you give us an overview of exactly what that is?
Sure. So under a National Science Foundation grant, we created Buddy Books, which is designed to help kids who are struggling readers and 1 or more years behind in their grade level reading to significantly improve their skills. And the way Buddy Books works is kind of cool. It's almost like the same way a parent would read to a child. And with Buddy Books, the computer reads one sentence, and then the kid reads the next sentence. And then the computer reads the third sentence, and the computer reads the fourth. And they go back and forth like that, which keeps the kid engaged in the story as they co-read with the computer. Now, since the kid is reading every other sentence, it tends to be a lower cognitive load, which means kids who are struggling readers can be reading books at their interest level as opposed to their reading skill level that they might think are kiddie books or not mature enough for them. Now, at the same time that Buddy Books is doing this co-reading with the student, the AI in Buddy Books is analyzing how well the student is reading, helps them when they struggle, and then shows a teacher or a parent or a therapist in a dashboard of where they need targeted instruction.
Okay, interesting. So can you use any books with Buddy Books? That was one of my questions. I don't know if that was one of the questions I had drafted, but when I was thinking about Buddy Books and just kind of learning about it since I met you, how is it a platform that you can use most books with, or are some books available to use with Buddy Books, or how does that book selection actually work?
So that's a great question. One of the things we knew when we created Buddy Books was to make sure that we had a wide selection of books that would be engaging for students of all ages. So we formed a partnership with an entity called Bookshare. Now, Bookshare is funded through the Department of Ed, and they provide over 1.2 million books to any kid that has what's considered a print disability or a reading disability. So if a kid has dyslexia, if a kid has a speech and language issue, they have free access to these over 1 million books that go anywhere from grade one all the way up to adult level reading. So all those books can be available from within Buddy Books. And we have both normal fiction like Harry Potter, as well as a lot of decodable books, which a lot of teachers who work with students with dyslexia need to help improve their reading skills.
Ah, okay. That was the missing link there. I was wondering how that all worked. Okay, Bookshare. Interesting. That's awesome to know. So what students would benefit from Buddy Books? What type of learner are utilizing Buddy Books?
Well, we've seen amazing results of kids anywhere from second grade on up. So, for example, this summer we ran a pilot program in an after school in a summer school program in Jupiter, Florida, called the Edda Runner Tutorial Center. And these kids were in an underserved community, and most of the kids had failed their third or fourth grade reading test, and they felt stupid, and they just did not feel like they thought they would never learn to read. So we offered to bring Buddy Books in there to help the kids reading. And kids ended up using it for about 5 weeks. They used it 2 to 3 times a week for about 20 to 30 minutes each time. We saw that after just 5 weeks of usage, the lowest two quartiles of students in reading skills, the ones who had failed, had improved their fluency and their accuracy by about 15%. That was just 5 weeks. Okay.
Wow.
We did a couple of other pilots where kids made similar progress. It was absolutely amazing. And a lot of these have gone on and are now using it as part of their either their after school program or part of their regular teaching, because a lot of the teachers who were providing the type of education the kids needed during the summer school or after school said, hey, I need to use this with all the kids in my class because it really helps a kid get over their problem with reading. And we think success is when kids no longer need Buddy Books. So they get engaged because they're reading with the computer.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if they make a mistake because the computer's not going to stop the conversation and say, oh, you made a mistake and like that. They simply know they have to read their sentence to get the computer to read the next sentence. It's almost like an audiobook, but the kid has to do their share of reading. And just like with Netflix, it knows whether or not you're reading. So if a kid stops reading, it's going to say, are you still there?
Just like Netflix. Oh, AI. Oh, technology. Fascinating. Go to the next episode. I don't even have to press the button anymore. Thank you, Netflix. Okay, fascinating. That is interesting. Yeah, I think it has a lot of implications for a lot of different types of students. And even just, it sounds like it might be something that's nice if you have students who, are struggling readers, or just students who you want to increase their fluency or confidence with reading. I think that it also could be a really nice resource for that as well. So do you have school districts right now? I run this company called ABA Speech. I'm a speech therapist and board certified behavior analyst, but 2 days a week I work in my kids' own school in my hometown district here in Ohio. And a big part of that is kids who are maybe struggling, right? We do this like standardized testing, and certain students are like having trouble with their reading fluency or reading. And when I was putting together the questions for today, I'm like, I wonder if any school districts are using Buddy Books as part of their MTSS process or part of their intervention, where kids are kind of not identified yet as having a disability, but are seen to have a support needs in the area of reading. Is that something that you are reaching out to districts and they're utilizing Buddy Books in that way?
Yeah. So basically, we'll walk into a school district and say, how many of your kids in third or fourth grade are doing really well? Okay, or are you basically following what's happening in this country, was 30 to 40% of the kids in third and fourth grade are failing their reading. Okay, and it can go all the way down to second grade. It can go up to ninth or 10th grade, but we'll tend to focus on where we know they have a real pain point of the third and fourth graders, where you really need to have reading solid, are not making the progress they need. And then we'll say, well, why don't you try it out on a handful of kids and see how it goes? And they try it out and they said, this is amazing. Because the kids actually, the first week tends to be a little more difficult for the kids because they weren't used to this before.
Yeah.
But then they stick with it. They go through 2 or 3 sessions and it's like, oh, this is fun. I get to read with the computer. I don't have to read every single sentence by myself. It takes long paragraphs and breaks them up into shorter chunks. All the things the kids need. And then when they finish the reading for the day, let's say 15, 20 minutes, they get confetti on the screen and all this positive feedback. And then the teacher says, well, this is working for my worst readers. Maybe I can help everybody else move even faster. We had this one girl. It was actually a homeschool kid. She had dyslexia. She was in seventh grade reading at a fourth grade level.
Ooh.
And her mom brought in buddy books and started using it. And the kid was making good progress. And then after using it for about 6 months, the kid comes back and says, um, I would like to read Lord of the Rings. And we said to her, well, that's kind of a ninth grade book. You're only in seventh grade.
Yeah.
So we set her up with that, and we saw her fluency drop from like 120 words per minute down to about 80 words per minute. Because Buddy Books at that point was in what's called paragraph mode. The computer reads a paragraph, and then the kid reads a paragraph.
Okay.
We switched it back to sentence at a time mode. Her fluency shot back up to 120 words per minute. And this seventh grader was reading a ninth grade level book, and she finished the whole Lord of the Rings series.
Wow.
Obviously, her mom was super happy. The other thing that we found is that while we didn't expect kids who were on the autism spectrum to really benefit from it,
Yeah.
we actually did another pilot this summer at a school called the Connections Education Institute, also in South Florida. And there were, I think, 12 kids that they were going to do. And these kids were anywhere from 7 years old up to 22. And the director thought, well, there's going to be a problem because these kids are not going to want to read in the summer, and they're simply going to think that this is a boring school activity.
Right.
They brought it in anyway. Well, 5 of the kids immediately rejected. The other 7 kids started saying, after they had their 15 minutes of reading with buddy books, they said, we want to keep reading longer.
Right.
So they let them use it for up to a half hour. That's turned into now an after-school reading club where these kids basically got together and started reading, and they did start viewing reading as a leisure time activity, which is the joy of reading.
Yeah.
I have to tell you one story about this.
Yeah.
So there was a girl, she was 22 years old, nonverbal by choice through most of her life. She barely said hello to people. So she started using buddy books and was talking back and forth to buddy books. And her mom was working with her at night as well. She used it for a month. And then one morning she comes into the school and she says hello to her teacher.
Oh, wow.
Well, her teacher basically broke into tears because that never happened before. So this kid who was nonverbal by choice on the spectrum transferred the skill of reading back and forth with the computer to reading and speaking normally with somebody as now an expansion of her skills. And we see this across the board, which is regardless of what kind of disability the child is learning to overcome, buddy books makes reading more fun. So they basically build up the skill set to basically get past it. They still need the instruction. They still need parent support. They still need teacher support or therapist support. But if you can get the kid to practice 15, 20 minutes a day of reading and they're enjoying the reading, it's amazing what that much practice can do.
Yeah, that makes me think of, I wish I would have known about buddy books. I had a student, for anybody that's listening and has a learner with selective mutism, where the student could talk outside of school. The student was in general education classes, middle school student, had resource support, but the student did not talk at school, did not talk to friends, did not talk to teachers. And then once COVID hit, it was worse. The student really struggled with online instruction and just really then even talked less. And we've talked about selective mutism on the show, but one of the things when the student was doing really well, one of the things that we had done as a homework assignment was that the student would read certain sentences that I would put together with the student, and then they would read them at home, and the student knew then this was going to be shared with me. And the student was fine with that. And then COVID hit, and selective mutism is anxiety-based disorder and things like that. And then that kind of went by the wayside. But buddy books would have been interesting for a kid who also has selective mutism. So anybody that's listening, I think it would be fascinating to potentially try this with a student, because what it would do is instill a lot of confidence. Like, I think even kids who have other things, maybe just confidence issues or reading with, fluency, it kind of is a nice way to practice that and make kids feel more confident. So that's an interesting story, about that student. It seems like it has a lot of good implications, because I know I just had a person, JD Barker, on who is autistic and a New York Times bestselling author. But we talked all about, book clubs and how books and reading can be a big part of socialization, which is so important for not just autistic learners, but any type of students. So that's interesting. So do you
I want
have,
to take that one.
yeah,
I want to go one step further on
yeah,
that. We didn't realize at the beginning when we did buddy books how it would affect kids' confidence.
yeah,
At that Edna Runner situation, not only did these kids, when we had asked them kind of to talk a little about their experience, not only did they tell us that they no longer felt stupid or they had new confidence in reading, what we found is there's a lot of kids who basically don't have the self-confidence to orally read in front of their peers and their
yeah.
classmates. They think they'll make a fool of themselves and they'll get embarrassed. Okay.
Yeah.
And what we found out is by doing it every single day for that 20 minutes or so and talking back and forth with the computer, they developed this confidence of speaking aloud so that when they're called on in class, that anxiety just goes away because they're so used to speaking out loud
Mm-hmm.
and the computer never judges them.
Yeah.
And the section, there's one of the things in buddy books is it actually will let kids listen to how they read so they can
Oh.
improve. One of the cool things in buddy books is um, at the beginning of every day's reading, we spent a minute or so and we looked for a passage where the child really struggled. And first, we'll model read that passage to the child. Then we'll
Mm-hmm.
let the child listen to how they actually read it. And then we give them a chance to reread, to
Oh.
record it again. And we
Mm-hmm.
got that from a speech and language expert, Melanie Schultz at Vanderbilt University. She suggested we add that to buddy books. And from doing that, because kids get to hear how they sound and they get to listen and improve, not only does their prosody improve because they hear how it should be spoken, but their confidence skyrockets because it's no big deal. They're just talking, and then they talk in class and they talk to
Mm-hmm.
peers. It's such a difference in the confidence that buddy books gives them. It's amazing. So
Yeah.
I
The other,
interrupted you.
oh no, that's okay. The other thing that I'm thinking as just an educator is I think it would be great for, well, you talked about like maybe lower schools where maybe there's not a lot of parental support after the school hours, because really, as a parent, I have 3 kids. My kids are supposed to read 20 minutes a night. Now, my firstborn is, in a beta club and is a really good student. It's not that my younger two aren't, but they need more prodding. But I'm just thinking of districts where parents have a hard time just managing life and navigating life, where maybe they're not able to sit with their kids for 20 minutes. It seems like buddy books would be a great resource for districts where it's hard to get that parental support, because isn't that a statistic that kids are supposed to read 20 minutes every day? That's what our teachers say that we're supposed to do as parents. And I know sometimes, even just as a working parent, it's like some kids, my own kids will do it. And the others, then it's just like, it's stressful for me. I'm not going to lie. It's stressful for me for my kids to read 20 minutes. So have you guys worked with districts of all socioeconomic statuses?
Yes, yeah. We tend to aim more for districts that are serving more underserved communities
Yeah.
than others. But the other thing is not only is there the issue that buddy will provide that motivation to get the kids to read, it's a lot of parents, even if they had the time, they have multiple kids and they can't verify whether or not the kid actually did their reading.
Right.
But since with buddy books, the kid has to read and the parent can actually look at in the dashboard, they can actually see how well the kid is reading and did they read. If it says the kid read for 7 minutes out of that 20, that's what the kid really read. Are you still there? What's the next question?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Right.
other
Right.
thing is we've seen that parents, like homeschool moms who might have 3, 4, 5 kids, okay, she doesn't have time to listen and sit down with every one of the kids and make sure they
Mm-hmm.
do the reading. But what she
Right.
can do is make sure that one kid is reading with buddy books while she's helping another one of the students, another one of her kids, and then go back to the dashboard and see, and then be able to pop in and say, okay, tell me what's going on in the story now. And have
Mm-hmm.
one, 2 quick questions, but she already has all that data to see how well and where they need additional help. And we've seen in classrooms where a teacher has 15 kids or so on a caseload, um, she knows exactly what to work on with each student, as opposed to having to go through a cold read or figure out where they are. Instead of taking 10 minutes to figure out where the student needs help, she looks at the dashboard and in 30 seconds, she knows exactly how to put in 5 minutes on this kid to move them over the hurdle that they're facing and be able to do that for all the kids in the classroom in one period.
I love that. So with the licensing of buddy books, how does that, so it can be used by organizations, but it could also be used by parents. Is that correct to
Yeah,
say?
we provide Yeah, we have a home version of Buddy Books for parents and a school version that's used by public schools, private schools, religious schools.
Hmm.
We have a lot of tutors who are, say, dyslexic tutors in dyslexia or other
Yeah.
reading disabilities. So there's a wide range, but it seems to fall in one or two categories. So, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So this is great. I love buddy books. You were easy to talk to when I met you at Milestones. I was like, this sounds really cool. So I wanted to share the information because I want to make sure that people are utilizing this awesome resource. How can people learn more about buddy books?
They can just visit us at www.objectiveed.com
Wonderful.
or
Great.
search Google for Buddy Books and we'll come up. Search Objective Ed and we'll come up. If they have questions, they can email at info@objectiveed.com.
Okay. Great.
But
Awesome.
just search, I think if you do a Google search for Buddy Books, we're right at the top.
Love it. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Marty. It was great to connect.
Well, thanks for your time and you have a great day.